My name is Alexander III of Macedon, but you probably know me as the Great. Not my title, by the way. My historian Callisthenes came up with that one after I died. But honestly, fair enough. I was born in 356 BCE in Pella, which is basically the most glamorous mud hut capital you can imagine. My dad was King Philip II, great warrior, terrible party guest. My mom was Olympias, a woman who genuinely believed she was descended from Achilles. She wasn't. But try telling her that. I didn't. I valued my kneecaps. When I was 13, my father hired the absolute best tutor money could buy, Aristotle. The guy taught me philosophy, medicine, science, and most importantly, that non-Greeks were basically natural-born slaves, which is an opinion that aged about as well as unrefrigerated moussaka. But hey, I was a teenager. I had hormones and a sword. Did you expect good judgment? The first time I really showed my whole personality was with a horse named Bucephalus. This stallion was brought to my father gorgeous, black, taller than any horse in Macedon. Price tag? 13 talents. That's almost 3 times what a normal horse costs. My dad's generals tried to ride him. Failed. My dad's best cavalrymen tried. Failed. Harder. Philip was about to send him back to the glue factory equivalent of the ancient world. I was 12. I stood up in the middle of the arena because I have never, not once in my life, had even a single ounce of chill, and said, "What an excellent horse do they lose for want of address and boldness to manage him." Everyone laughed. Everyone. I could hear my own generals snorting wine through their noses. But I had noticed something the adults hadn't. The horse was afraid of his own shadow. Ridiculous, right? A massive war stallion, terrified of the dark blob following him around. So I walked up to him slowly, casually turned him toward the sun so his shadow was behind him. He calmed down immediately. I hopped on and rode him around the arena like a merry-go-round pony. My father cried. Not joking. Philip of Macedon, the man who conquered Greece, wept openly in front of his entire court and said, "O my son, look thee out a kingdom equal to and worthy of thyself, for Macedonia is too little for thee." That is the single greatest compliment any father has ever given any son in the history of parenting. Bucephalus carried me through every major battle for the next 17 years until he died of old age. And yes, I named a city after him, Bucephala. I also named a city after my dog and my name. And there are about 20 cities still standing today that just say Alexandria somewhere, because I was incapable of original branding. Fast forward a few years, Dad gets assassinated. I take the throne at age 20. I immediately crush the Greek city-states that thought they could revolt looking at you, Thebes. I burned Thebes to the ground so thoroughly that future generations would say, "Remember Thebes?" And everyone would shrug. Not my proudest moment, but honestly, they started it. Then I invaded Persia. And this is where things get fun. I marched through Anatolia and came to a city called Gordium. In the temple there was an ancient ox cart tied to a post with a legendary knot, so complicated, so impossibly tangled, that an oracle had prophesied that whoever untied it would conquer Asia. For centuries, people tried. Priests, scholars, kings. Nobody could find the ends of the rope. I walked in. I examined the knot for about 30 seconds. I could see there was no way to untie it normally because the end was hidden inside the knot itself. And that's when I had a moment of pure, undiluted Alexandrian genius. I drew my sword and cut the knot in half. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about problems. They don't care how you solve them. They just want to be solved. The priests were horrified. My generals were ecstatic. And I said something along the lines of, "Well, that's untied now, isn't it?" And marched off to conquer Persia. The prophecy came true. Did I cheat? Well, well, well. Absolutely. Do I care? Not even a little bit. Darius III, the king of Persia, was not a great military commander. I should know. I fought him twice. The first time, at Issus, in 333 BCE, he brought a massive army and thought he had outflanked me. I led my companion cavalry straight at him, charged through his lines, and Darius did something that I still find hilarious to this day. He ran away from his own war chariot, abandoning his mother, his wife, and his children on the battlefield. Generals after the battle kept bringing me royal Persian prisoners. "King Alexander, we have captured the mother of the enemy. King Alexander, we have captured the wife of the enemy. King Alexander, we have captured. Put them in the nicest tent we have. Give them excellent food and treat them like honored guests," I said. Because I'm not a monster. I'm just ambitious. Darius wrote me letters, many letters. He offered me a huge ransom. He offered me half his empire. He offered me his daughter's hand in marriage. And every single time I wrote back, "There cannot be two suns in the sky, and there cannot be two kings of Asia." Then at Gaugamela in 331 BCE, Darius tried again. He brought war elephants, scythed chariots, and an army so large it literally flattened the battlefield. My guys were outnumbered something like 2-1, but I had a trick. I pretended to attack one flank, pulled his cavalry out of position, and then punched a wedge of companion cavalry right through the gap in his center, straight at Darius. He ran away. Again. By the second time he ran, I stopped being surprised. I just sighed, looted his camp, and gave his family back to him anyway, because, honestly, Darius, you're embarrassing yourself. A story I really love happened back in Greece. I had just conquered most of the known world and was passing through Corinth. Someone told me that a philosopher named Diogenes was living in a barrel outside the city. So I went to find him because I'm curious like that, and also I had literally nothing better to do on a Tuesday afternoon. I found him sitting in the sun, mending his tub, looking like he hadn't bathed since the Persian Wars. I walked up to him in full royal regalia, flanked by guards, and said, "I am Alexander the Great King. Ask me whatever you wish, and I shall give it to you." Diogenes looked up at me, just stared for a moment, and then he said, "Retire, then, a little to one side. You are depriving me of the sun." Silence. My generals reached for their swords. My guards tensed up, but I just stood there, blinking. Because this man, this dirty, barrel-dwelling, public masturbating weirdo, had just rejected the most powerful man in the world's offer for literally everything. And all he wanted was for me to move out of his sunlight. I left that encounter and told my men, if I were not Alexander, I would want to be Diogenes. And I meant it, because that guy had something I never did, the ability to just stop. I conquered Egypt without a fight, founded Alexandria, named myself son of the god Ammon, declared myself king of Asia, marched all the way to India, won the battle of the Hydaspes River against King Porus and his war elephants. And then my men said, "Alexander, we've been marching for 11 years. We've seen more death than any army in history, and we would like to go home and see our families." I pouted for a week. Then I turned back. In 323 BCE, I was in Babylon. I was 32 years old. I had conquered the largest empire in the ancient world, never lost a battle, spread Greek culture across 3 continents, and founded more cities than I could count on both hands. And then I got a fever after a particularly aggressive drinking contest with a man named Medius of Larissa, a fever that just wouldn't stop. 11 days later, on June 13th, I was gone. My empire splintered immediately. My generals carved it up like a birthday cake at a hostile corporate retreat. But my name? My name lasted. I'm Alexander. I was short about 5'7". I had one blue eye and one brown eye. I smelled amazing, apparently. I slept with a copy of Homer's Iliad under my pillow, right next to my dagger. I wept when my best friend Hephaestion died. I drank undiluted wine straight, like a psychopath. I had absolutely zero chill, and I conquered the world before I was old enough to legally rent a chariot. If I could live my life again, I would still march on Persia, still cross the burning desert, still fight Porus and his elephants. For I needed to know what lay beyond every horizon. Perhaps that is the purpose of my existence. I am Alexander of Macedon. I have walked lands you cannot even fathom in your dreams.